chosen one. Have you noticed that some moments seem to arrive with a quiet certainty, as though life has been guiding you toward them long before your mind could understand why? If these words have found you today, do not dismiss that feeling too quickly. There are encounters that happen by routine, and then there are encounters that seem to unfold with an invisible purpose. Somewhere beneath the surface of your daily life, something has been drawing your attention toward this exact moment, patiently waiting until your heart was ready to listen. Even now, there is a chance you can sense it without fully explaining it. Perhaps it feels like a gentle pressure resting inside your chest, a persistent whisper beneath your thoughts, or an unshakable awareness that the season you have been living through is reaching its conclusion. The date of June 26 carries far more significance than another page turning on a calendar. It represents a crossing point within your personal journey, one that appears precisely when your inner growth has reached a place where remaining the same is no longer possible. This moment is not simply about discovering something new. It is about becoming prepared to receive what could never have arrived while you were still holding onto an older version of yourself. Every meaningful transformation requires not only insight but readiness, and wisdom often reveals itself only after the soul has developed the strength to carry it. Before we continue exploring everything connected with June 26, allow yourself to become fully present. If these words resonate with you, take a moment to support this message. Subscribe and leave a comment claiming the energy you are choosing to welcome into your life. That simple action is not presented as a ritual of obligation, but as an intentional decision to acknowledge that you are ready to participate rather than simply observe. Before we continue exploring everything connected with June 26th, allow yourself to become fully present. If something in these words speaks to you, take a quiet moment to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment that simply says, "I am ready." Every time you subscribe, you become part of a growing community of people who gather here to reflect, awaken, and receive these messages together. And by commenting, you're making a conscious decision to acknowledge the path you feel called to walk. That simple action is not about obligation or superstition. It is a personal declaration that you are choosing to participate in your own transformation instead of watching it unfold from a distance. Once your awareness begins operating from a different level, returning to the comfort of old illusions becomes increasingly difficult. Listen carefully, because this message may be one of the many ways life has been attempting to reach you after countless quieter invitations went unnoticed. Certain dates moved through history unnoticed, while others carry a quality that cannot be measured by ordinary time. June 26th belongs to the latter. Its significance is not created by clocks or schedules, but by alignment between your inner world and the opportunities preparing to emerge around you. There comes a point when the soul refuses to remain hidden beneath an identity shaped only by survival, fear, or adaptation. Whether your conscious mind remembers choosing such a moment is irrelevant, because another part of you has never forgotten. That deeper awareness recognizes this transition immediately, and perhaps that explains why recent days have felt strangely unfamiliar. Nothing necessarily appears broken, yet everything seems subtly different. You may have sensed invisible movement beneath the surface of your life, almost as though unseen currents have begun redirecting your path while your external circumstances struggle to keep pace. Without fully realizing it, you have been moving beyond former versions of yourself. Relationships that once defined your world may no longer reflect where your spirit is heading. Habits that once provided comfort may now feel restrictive. Beliefs that once protected you may now seem too small for the awareness gradually unfolding inside you. Even the identity that helped you survive difficult seasons may suddenly feel more like a cage than a sanctuary. What appears to be instability is actually preparation. Rather than creating disorder, the universe is arranging circumstances so that you stand exactly where you need to be before the next chapter begins. You may have spent countless quiet moments asking why everything seems to be changing at once. Why have certain people become distant? Why has clarity been replaced by uncertainty? Why do familiar situations suddenly feel as though they no longer belong in your life? These questions are natural, yet they often arise because the mind interprets transition as loss before it recognizes it as growth. Nothing essential to your highest path is truly collapsing. Instead, your life is undergoing a careful reorganization. What genuinely belongs with your future remains capable of evolving alongside you. What cannot exist within that future naturally begins to fall away. This process is rarely comfortable because endings often disguise themselves as absence, silence, disappointment, or emotional distance before revealing the freedom they create. The dismantling you are witnessing is not punishment. It is a sacred clearing of foundations that were never designed to support the person you are becoming. What waits beyond this season cannot fully enter, while outdated structures continue occupying the space meant for new possibilities. Every meaningful beginning requires room to breathe, greater clarity, and an energetic foundation that reflects your present truth rather than your former limitations. If your emotions have become unusually intense, if dreams seem unusually vivid, if unexpected moments of certainty are followed by profound exhaustion, consider the possibility that your inner world is adjusting rather than failing. Your energy is recalibrating itself to match a different frequency of living. Before every expansion, there is often a period of compression when life seems to press inward before opening outward in unexpected ways. During this process, your intuition grows increasingly impossible to ignore. The quiet voice within becomes more persistent, while your willingness to tolerate situations that once felt acceptable steadily disappears. You begin noticing subtle patterns that previously escaped your attention. Truths you once avoided now insist on being acknowledged. A deeper awareness continues rising until distraction is no longer enough to silence it. The discomfort accompanying this awakening is not evidence that something has gone wrong. It is evidence that your entire being recognizes how close you are to crossing an invisible threshold. One of the earliest signs appears almost unnoticed at first, yet once you become aware of it, your perspective can never fully return to what it was before. You no longer recognize yourself in the same way. Activities that once filled you with excitement seem strangely hollow. Conversations that once felt meaningful begin lacking genuine depth. Places that once offered familiarity now carry an unexpected heaviness. Even long-established routines may feel as though they belong to someone you have already outgrown. It is understandable if this experience causes you to question yourself, yet the deeper reality reaches far beyond confusion. You are not losing yourself. You are releasing layers that have completed their purpose. The identity you once depended upon is gradually dissolving because it can no longer contain the greater truth attempting to emerge. Transformation always feels unfamiliar during its earliest stages because you are learning to inhabit a version of yourself that has existed only as potential until now. As this realization continues unfolding, what comes next will reveal why every change leading to this point has been preparing you for something your former self could never fully receive. The next indication rarely announces itself with dramatic words. Instead, it quietly reveals itself through the people surrounding you. Perhaps you have already noticed it. Messages that once came effortlessly now arrive. Less often, conversations that used to flow naturally seem brief or distant, and individuals who once occupied an important place in your everyday life have gradually faded into the background, or disappeared without offering any explanation at all. It is understandable if this has left you searching for answers, replaying interactions in your mind and wondering whether you somehow caused the separation. Yet there is a deeper perspective waiting beneath that emotional discomfort. What you're experiencing is not abandonment. It is the natural result of an energetic transition taking place within you. As your inner frequency changes, your outer relationships inevitably begin reorganizing themselves. Not everyone is designed to continue walking beside you through every chapter of your journey. Some souls entered your life to awaken hidden strengths, expose limiting beliefs, or reflect lessons you could not have discovered alone. Others belonged only to a particular season that has now fulfilled its purpose. A mere small number are meant to accompany you into the reality that is now unfolding. Although this process can feel lonely, it is actually creating room for relationships that resonate with the person you are becoming, instead of the person you once needed to be. Nothing truly meant for your highest path is being stolen away. Space is simply being prepared for what genuinely belongs there. The next sign often feels even more frustrating because it appears as though life itself has pressed the pause button. Suddenly, everything seems to move more slowly than before. Plans encounter unexpected delays. Opportunities that once appeared close seem temporarily out of reach. The momentum that carried you forward begins fading until you question whether you have somehow lost your direction. The mind naturally interprets this stillness as failure, but that interpretation misses what is actually taking place. This period is not designed to punish you. It exists to refine you. The universe is inviting you into silence because the decisions waiting ahead cannot be made through urgency, fear, or emotional pressure. They require deeper awareness and a stronger connection with your own inner knowing. Distractions are gradually being removed, so you can hear the quiet guidance that has always existed beneath the noise of everyday life. Although nothing dramatic may appear to be happening on the surface, profound adjustments are occurring within you. Your perspective is becoming more precise. Your energy is becoming more balanced. Your path is being carefully aligned with opportunities that require intention instead of impulsive action. What appears motionless is actually one of the most productive stages of your transformation. Perhaps there is another sensation that has remained difficult to describe, yet impossible to dismiss. It feels almost as though invisible pressure has been steadily increasing inside your reality. Even when external circumstances seem ordinary, something deep within continues whispering that an important change is approaching. The strange combination of anticipation and uncertainty often appears when one chapter is ending, while another has not yet become visible. You are standing in the space between two realities. Your spirit has already begun crossing into what comes next, while your physical circumstances are still reflecting what is ending. Naturally, this creates tension. It can feel uncomfortable because your heart recognizes movement that your eyes cannot yet confirm. Do not mistake this experience for anxiety alone. It is evidence that your inner world has already begun responding to a future your conscious mind has not fully reached. Soon the changes you have sensed internally will begin expressing themselves through unmistakable events in your external life. Another powerful confirmation appears through the growing number of meaningful patterns surrounding you. Pay closer attention than ever before because these experiences are becoming increasingly difficult to dismiss. Repeating numbers seem to appear wherever you look. Similar messages reach you through completely unrelated conversations. Familiar words, symbols, themes, and unexpected encounters seem to follow you from one place to another. At first, your logical mind may have explained them away as coincidence, but something inside you recognizes there is more happening than chance alone. These recurring experiences function like quiet guideposts placed along your journey. The universe often communicates through patterns instead of direct explanations, gently encouraging awareness without removing your freedom to choose. Every repeated sequence, every perfectly timed meeting, every familiar phrase arriving through unexpected sources becomes another reminder that you are not wandering aimlessly. Even during moments when you believe you are walking alone, guidance continues unfolding around you. As your awareness expands, the path ahead gradually becomes easier to recognize because your attention has learned to notice what previously remained invisible. Another unmistakable change is taking place within your own perception. There may have been a period when you constantly questioned your instincts, searching outside yourself for reassurance before making even the smallest decision. That season is ending. Your inner guidance no longer whispers uncertainty from the background. It now speaks with remarkable consistency and strength. You begin sensing situations before they unfold. You recognize the intentions of others without requiring evidence or lengthy explanations. Something inside immediately knows when a choice aligns with your deeper purpose and when it does not, even if logic struggles to explain the difference. This is not fantasy or wishful thinking. Your intuitive awareness is expanding because the journey ahead will require greater trust in your own inner wisdom than ever before. The coming changes will ask you to respond with confidence rather than hesitation, to move forward because you recognize truth instead of waiting until fear disappears. That is why your intuition continues becoming one of the most dependable guides available to you. Another stage of preparation often surprises people because it involves emotions they believed had already been left behind. Old memories may suddenly return without warning. Feelings you assumed had completely healed may unexpectedly rise back to the surface with remarkable intensity. At first, this can create the impression that you are losing progress or somehow returning to a place you thought you had already overcome. Yet nothing could be further from the truth. This is not a step backward. It is the final invitation to complete unfinished healing. The universe is allowing hidden pain to become visible again, not to reopen your suffering, but to remove its remaining influence over your future. Anything left unresolved eventually asks to be acknowledged before genuine freedom becomes possible. The next chapter cannot fully unfold while emotional burdens from previous seasons continue occupying your energy. Every memory that returns is asking for understanding instead of avoidance. Every emotion rising into awareness is requesting release instead of resistance. This process serves as the final cleansing that prepares your heart to move forward with greater lightness and authenticity. The final indication often arrives as an irresistible attraction towards something you cannot yet fully explain. A quiet calling begins drawing your attention beyond everything that currently feels familiar. You may suddenly feel inspired to change your surroundings, explore a different career, develop new habits, or completely redefine the direction of your life. Even without possessing a detailed plan, the inner pull refuses to disappear. It remains present day after day, gently encouraging movement toward possibilities that have not yet revealed themselves completely. This feeling is not evidence of confusion. It is the language of guidance. Your soul is already responding to a future that your conscious mind has not entirely understood. What feels unfamiliar is not automatically dangerous. In many cases, it is the doorway leading toward the life that has been patiently waiting for you. Everything connected with your past naturally belongs to the version of yourself that carried you this far. Everything drawing you into the unknown belongs to the person you are now becoming. You are approaching a moment that carries lasting significance. It feels as though time itself has paused between what has already ended and what has not yet fully begun. Waiting in this space can be uncomfortable because visible evidence appears limited, while invisible movement accelerates beneath the surface. It may seem as though nothing is changing, yet countless unseen adjustments are taking place simultaneously. Energies continue aligning. Timelines continue reorganizing themselves. Possibilities are quietly arranging themselves around the life you are preparing to enter. This apparent stillness is overflowing with hidden activity. When the transition finally becomes visible, every delay, every unexpected ending, every emotional wave, and every unanswered question will reveal its purpose with remarkable clarity. June 26th is not merely another date passing through the year. It represents the point where every experience leading to this season begins fitting together as part of a larger design. The uncertainty, the emotional distance, the repeated signs, the quiet pauses, and the inner awakening all converge here. This is where inner transformation begins expressing itself through tangible change. Resisting this moment only postpones what your soul has already chosen to experience. Accepting it allows you to move in harmony with the current already carrying you forward. Whether you fully recognize it today or not, this marks the beginning of a turning point that will reshape everything that follows. Even after recognizing every sign that has been guiding you toward this moment, one quiet obstacle often remains. It rarely announces itself through panic or dramatic emotion. Instead, it slips into your thoughts with gentle questions that seem reasonable on the surface. It asks whether you are truly prepared for what lies ahead. It encourages you to doubt the wisdom that has been growing inside you. It reminds you how comfortable the familiar once felt, even when that familiar life no longer reflects who you are becoming. This hidden resistance is easy to mistake for caution, yet it serves a very different purpose. It appears whenever your life approaches meaningful transformation because every new chapter requires leaving behind the certainty of the old one. That inner hesitation is not evidence that you should retreat. It is evidence that you have reached the boundaries separating your previous identity from the one waiting to emerge. Growth has always required stepping beyond what feels predictable, and this moment is asking you to do exactly that. The invitation before you is not to eliminate fear before moving forward. The invitation is to continue walking even while fear attempts to convince you to remain where you have already outgrown. The most important decision you face now will not necessarily be visible to anyone else. It is not defined by a dramatic action or a public declaration. It begins quietly within your own heart. It is the decision to place greater confidence in your inner knowing than in temporary appearances. It is the willingness to continue even when every answer has not yet revealed itself. It is the commitment to honor your deepest truth instead of allowing uncertainty to dictate your future. That single internal choice becomes the foundation upon which every outward change is built. Guidance may continue appearing around you. Meaningful signs may continue revealing themselves. Unexpected opportunities may continue opening before you, yet none of them can replace the decision that only you are capable of making. The universe can illuminate possibilities, but it cannot choose your direction. That responsibility has always belonged to you. Once that decision is made with genuine conviction, your experience begins changing with remarkable speed, because your energy is no longer divided between trust and hesitation. A remarkable realization eventually arises during every authentic awakening. It does not emerge gradually through endless analysis. Instead, it settles over you with undeniable certainty until everything that once appeared disconnected suddenly forms a complete picture. In that moment, you recognize something capable of transforming your entire understanding of your journey. You were never wandering without purpose. Every apparent delay carried meaning beyond what you could recognize at the time. Every unexpected detour quietly redirected you toward experiences that were necessary for your growth. Moments that once appeared to represent failure were actually strengthening qualities you would eventually depend upon. Periods of loneliness were not evidence of abandonment, but opportunities for protection, reflection, and preparation. This awareness does not arrive as a small intellectual insight. It moves through your entire being like a powerful wave, dissolving the old belief that your life had somehow drifted away from its intended course. Looking back, you begin recognizing connections that remained invisible while you were living through them. The pattern becomes unmistakable. Every experience, whether welcomed or resisted, has contributed to bringing you precisely where you stand today. As this understanding settles within you, the world around you begins reflecting the transformation already taking place inside. Circumstances that once appeared permanent suddenly lose their certainty. Foundations that previously defined your identity no longer seem capable of supporting the life that is unfolding ahead. Situations you once believed would remain unchanged begin dissolving before your eyes. Although this process may initially feel unsettling, there is no need to interpret it as loss. What is disappearing was never designed to accompany you indefinitely. The universe is not removing what genuinely belongs to your future. It is gently dismantling illusions that kept you attached to a reality your spirit has already outgrown. Every structure that falls away creates additional room for something more authentic to take its place. What appears chaotic from one perspective reveals itself as remarkable precision from another. Within the openness created by those endings, something far more important begins revealing itself. Rather than depending upon external validation, you begin rediscovering a deeper connection with your own authentic nature. Your energy feels clearer, your relationship with yourself becomes more honest. Decisions begin arising from alignment instead of pressure. The need to constantly prove your worth gradually fades because you recognize that genuine confidence does not originate from approval or achievement. It emerges naturally whenever your actions reflect your deepest truth. This quiet strength is not built upon pride or ego. It is built upon the experience of finally standing in harmony with who you have always been beneath years of conditioning, expectation, and survival. Layers that once protected you are no longer necessary because they have completed their purpose. For the first time, your authentic self begins stepping forward without resistance, no longer asking permission to exist. Just before visible transformation fully arrives, many people encounter a surprising period of profound stillness. After emotional highs, endless questions, and seasons of uncertainty, everything becomes unexpectedly calm. This silence can feel unfamiliar because it differs from the struggle that came before it. Yet this calmness should never be mistaken for inactivity. It represents alignment reaching completion. Every internal adjustment has found its proper place. Even if external confirmation has not yet appeared, the work beneath the surface has already been accomplished. This peaceful pause signals that your foundation has been rebuilt from within, and that visible change is preparing to emerge naturally from the stability you have created inside yourself. It is the quiet moment immediately before transformation becomes impossible to overlook. Soon afterward, experiences that once seemed impossible begin appearing with remarkable precision. Opportunities emerge where no clear path previously existed. Conversations unfold in unexpected ways. Doors that remained closed despite repeated efforts suddenly begin opening with surprising ease. The guidance you sensed internally starts expressing itself through undeniable events in your daily life. At that point, you no longer depend solely upon faith because your own experience becomes the confirmation. The intuitive impressions, meaningful signs, and persistent inner knowing that accompanied you throughout this journey reveal themselves as accurate reflections of what was unfolding all along. What once required trust now becomes lived reality. The harmony established within you begins shaping the circumstances surrounding you. As your life enters this new level of alignment, the people crossing your path begin changing as well. The relationships that emerge carry a noticeably different quality from those that came before. There is an immediate sense of familiarity that cannot easily be explained. These individuals seem capable of understanding aspects of you that once required lengthy explanations. Their presence brings expansion instead of confusion, rather than draining your energy. They encourage greater authenticity. Instead of reinforcing fear, they inspire growth. These meetings are not accidental interruptions. They reflect the frequency you have gradually embodied through your own transformation. The connections entering your life now resonate with the version of yourself you have become rather than the version you have already left behind. Eventually, the direction you are meant to follow becomes impossible to ignore. Questions may still exist, but they no longer possess enough strength to overpower your inner certainty. The calling you have been sensing grows increasingly clear until pretending not to hear it becomes more difficult than responding to it. Avoiding your path begins feeling heavier than embracing it. Once genuine clarity arrives, returning to unconsciousness is no longer possible because awareness permanently changes the way you experience life. Yet, just as everything appears ready to move forward, one final challenge often presents itself. It may arrive disguised as unexpected delay, renewed uncertainty, or circumstances that seem determined to test everything you have learned throughout this journey. Although it may briefly resemble a setback, its purpose is entirely different, and what it truly represents will become clear in what comes next. Do not misunderstand what stands before you now. The challenge that appears at the very end of this journey has never been designed to prevent your progress. Its purpose is far more meaningful than creating another obstacle. It exists to reveal the strength of the alignment you have been building within yourself. At its core, this final moment asks only one essential question. When your certainty is tested, will you remain faithful to the truth you have already discovered, or will you abandon it the moment circumstances become uncomfortable? Everything depends upon your answer. The way you respond determines not only how this chapter ends, but how the next one begins. When you continue forward without retreating into familiar fears, an irreversible change takes place inside you. From that point onward, your perspective can never fully return to what it once was. The breakthrough you have been approaching does not arrive cautiously or halfway. It enters your life with unmistakable conviction. Situations that seemed permanently delayed suddenly begin moving. Opportunities that once appeared distant gradually find their way toward you. The resistance that defined previous seasons starts dissolving, replaced by a natural momentum that no longer depends upon struggle. It feels as though invisible pieces have finally fallen into their proper places, allowing you to recognize how every experience, every lesson, and every unexpected turn has quietly guided you toward this exact destination. Confusion begins fading. Emotional heaviness slowly lifts. You awaken each day with a level of inner clarity that once seemed impossible to imagine. None of this happens because of chance. It unfolds because alignment has become stronger than hesitation. This is what naturally follows when you stop negotiating with your past and fully embrace the direction your soul has been revealing all along. Beyond this breakthrough lies an even deeper discovery, one that many people unknowingly spend years avoiding. It is the realization of your own authentic power. This is not the kind of power measured by influence over other people or control over external circumstances. It is something infinitely more meaningful. It is the quiet confidence that allows you to trust your own decisions without constantly asking others to confirm them. It is the courage to release relationships, environments, or habits that no longer resonate with your spirit without carrying unnecessary guilt. It is the wisdom to recognize illusions before they shape your choices. At first, this level of self-alignment can feel overwhelming because genuine power always brings greater responsibility. Once you recognize your own truth, it becomes impossible to hide behind endless uncertainty or habitual self-doubt. The excuses that once protected you lose their influence because you understand they no longer reflect who you are. This version of yourself has always existed beneath every expectation placed upon you, beneath every survival strategy you developed, and beneath every fear that convinced you to remain small. Now you are being invited to live from that deeper identity instead of merely visiting it during brief moments of inspiration. As this expanded awareness becomes your new foundation, you may begin noticing subtle changes within your relationships. Conversations that once felt natural may suddenly seem strangely disconnected. Perspectives that previously appeared compatible no longer fit together with the same ease. You may even discover that describing your inner transformation to certain people feels almost impossible, because language cannot fully capture an experience that must be lived from within. There is no reason to interpret this distance as isolation. It simply reflects the reality that personal evolution changes the way you connect with the world around you. Not every person is expected to understand the path you are walking, and their inability to relate does not diminish its importance. Your purpose has never depended upon universal approval. It depends upon remaining faithful to your own alignment. Ironically, the more honestly you live according to your truth, the more naturally you attract individuals whose presence supports your continued growth. These relationships arise without unnecessary struggle because they resonate with the energy you now embody, rather than the identity you have already outgrown. The future unfolding before you is far more significant than another chapter added onto your existing life. It represents the beginning of an entirely different way of experiencing reality. Patterns that seemed impossible to escape gradually lose their hold. Repeating cycles that once kept returning begin coming to a natural conclusion. Instead of reacting automatically to every circumstance, you respond with greater awareness and intention. Choices become more conscious because they originate from clarity instead of emotional habit. Opportunities no longer require endless pursuit because your energy itself begins attracting experiences that reflect your inner state. This transformation is not created through relentless effort alone. It becomes possible because your external reality gradually mirrors the alignment you have cultivated within yourself. Every decision rooted in authenticity strengthens that foundation even further, allowing your life to unfold with increasing harmony. With greater awareness comes an equally meaningful responsibility. Once truth has been recognized, pretending not to see it becomes increasingly difficult. Returning to patterns that no longer reflect your authentic self creates an immediate feeling of inner conflict because your consciousness has already moved beyond them. Awakening is therefore much more than a pleasant realization. It becomes an invitation to live differently. This does not require flawless behavior or impossible perfection. It simply asks for honesty. It asks you to make choices with intention rather than unconscious repetition. It asks you to recognize when your actions no longer match your deepest values and to possess the courage to realign whenever necessary. Rather than becoming a burden, this responsibility offers extraordinary freedom because it allows every part of your life to become an authentic expression of who you truly are, instead of who you once believed you needed to be. As June 26th draws closer, one truth deserves your complete attention above everything else. This moment is not asking you to become someone entirely different. It is inviting you to fully inhabit the person who has quietly existed within you from the very beginning. Every challenge you have faced, every meaningful sign that captured your attention, every difficult lesson, and every unexpected moment of clarity has gradually guided you toward this point of recognition. There is nothing left for you to force into existence. There is no need to endlessly chase what already belongs to your path. What matters now is your willingness to remain aware and to place genuine trust in what your inner knowing has been revealing. The movement has already begun beneath the surface. The only remaining question is whether you will flow with that movement or continue resisting it through fear of change. This is the moment where everything becomes deeply personal, not as an abstract spiritual idea, but as a living decision taking place within you right now. As these words reach you, you are being invited to consciously acknowledge your own journey. You are being asked to recognize that your presence here is meaningful, that your experiences have never been random, and that your intuition has been guiding you for reasons greater than you may have previously understood. This is the point where uncertainty gradually gives way to alignment, not through dramatic overnight transformation, but through intentional choices repeated one after another. The instant you genuinely claim your direction, your relationship with life begins changing. Internal alignment always precedes external change. Although visible evidence may not appear immediately, unseen movement has already begun. Energy shifts first, and physical reality gradually responds. New possibilities begin revealing themselves. Unexpected opportunities quietly emerge. Relationships align with greater ease. Doors that once remained firmly closed begin opening naturally. The universe has never required perfection before responding. It responds to sincere willingness. Every step you take in harmony with your authentic truth strengthens the momentum carrying you forward. Every decision made from clarity instead of fear reinforces the life you are building. Eventually, what once seemed distant no longer feels extraordinary because it has become your new normal. Remember this above all else. You were never intended to remain trapped inside confusion, limitation, or endless uncertainty. Your path has always been leading toward greater awareness, deeper alignment, and a reality capable of reflecting your authentic strength. June 26th marks the beginning of that transition. Whether you fully comprehend its significance today or only recognize it after looking back in the future, the guidance has already appeared. The invitations have already been placed before you. The direction has already revealed itself. What remains now belongs entirely to the choice you make as you step into everything waiting beyond this moment.